Here are the top stories we'll be watching this week. Earnings at Facebook and Google are expected to power ahead despite growing regulatory pressure. In the final days before elections in Pakistan, corruption and the role of the military have become a major focus. It's crunch time for the world's largest food and drinks company Nestlé, which announces half-year results, and Ryanair faces possible strike action across Europe. First, to Silicon Valley, where Facebook and Google's parent Alphabet, the two companies that dominate digital advertising, are expected to show strong growth when they report earnings this week, despite regulatory threats. Google is set to shrug off last week's record antitrust fine from Brussels. The FT's US West Coast editor Richard Waters has more.
There's a really powerful tension at the moment between the threat of regulation at Google and Facebook and the very strong drive there's been in their business growth this year. The stock market has been trying to work out what the implications of greater regulation are in terms of higher costs, which we're already seeing at Facebook, or limits on their business, or potentially even breakups. And it's led to some real volatility in the share prices. But going into earnings this week, both companies are hitting a record high. Their advertising businesses are on a roll, and it hasn't been affected by any of the data privacy scandals or worries. Video is very much the product behind both companies this year. Instagram for Facebook is on a roll, and YouTube at Google is not experiencing the same brand safety issues that advertisers were worried about a year ago. So for this week at least, we should see some respite from the worries, but it doesn't mean they're going away.
Pakistan goes to the polls on Wednesday, with analysts predicting a close fight between the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz and Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, led by the country's charismatic former cricket captain Imran Khan, who's hopeful of victory.
Well, I'm quietly confident that this time we'll do it. It's the best prepared my party has been in terms of we've got good candidates and then we have a good manifesto. So I feel, we are prepared. But then, we can only try our best. I'm hopeful, I'm confident, but still, the match is not over until the last ball is bowled.
Presuming the vote goes ahead as planned, it will be Pakistan's second ever transition from one civilian administration to another. But workers and candidates for the PMLN say they've come under pressure from the country's powerful army, which some allege is behind the jailing of Nawaz Sharif, the former Prime Minister and party leader. If the PTI leader Mr Khan does win, it will be a rare victory for a candidate who comes from outside the country's two major dynasties, the Sharifs and the Bhuttos. He has projected himself on the campaign trail as a fighter against corruption, willing to take on the country's established political elite. But his opponents say he's been supported and funded by the armed forces. The half-year results of Nestlé on Thursday will reveal the pressures on the world's largest food and drinks company to boost its performance as the global food industry reels from rapid changes in consumer tastes and a wave of mergers and acquisitions. The FT's consumer industries editor, Scheherazade Janescu, has this analysis.
Nestlé is the world's biggest food company, and yet despite its size, it's found that its revenues have been slowing in terms of growth. And that's partly because, like a lot of traditional companies in the sector, its sales have come under pressure by newer and nimbler companies that have sprung up in some of the key areas in which Nestlé operates, namely coffee and chocolate. So these results are important because Nestlé's also come under pressure from an activist shareholder called Third Point, which wants Nestlé to do more, to move faster, become more profitable more quickly. So these results will be important for Mark Schneider, the chief executive, to show that his own strategy is on course and that he can deliver results, but in his own time frame rather than the more accelerated time frame that Third Point is demanding.
And finally, low-cost European airline Ryanair releases its first quarter results on Monday as it faces a threat of industrial action following a strike by its Irish pilots' union earlier in July. Last year, the airline agreed to recognise its unions following a resourcing disaster in the autumn, but agreements are proving hard to come by, with strikes threatened across Europe. And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London.